Once again, it's time for Off the Top Sportscast. I'm John, and that good-looking guy right there is Roy. Roy, I have our topic of the day. We are going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and everything that's happening with them this year and projections and all that kind of good stuff. But first, please like and subscribe. We love the comments. Please keep on commenting. Please keep on subscribing. We appreciate all the love. Roy, Dallas has been a good team for years, but hasn't been able to get over that hump. So right now, they got a lot of things going on. Well, let's talk about the first thing that's going on that is probably going to get resolved the quickest, right? CeeDee Lamb. That's number one. I think it should probably be number one on our priority list. You got three guys who are going to need new contracts. You got CeeDee, you got Dak, and you got Micah Parsons. Who would you do first in the contract list?
I probably would do CeeDee Lamb first. Yeah, Parson is great, but you're only one guy on defense. CeeDee Lamb, it's really you need those. He's the best wide receiver. You need somebody to throw to. You need somebody to catch that scores points.
That's
CeeDee
right.
Lamb.
So CeeDee last year had 1,749 yards, 12 touchdowns at an average of 13. Just to put it in perspective, the next closest was Brandon Cooks. He had about 650 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then it drops real bad after that. You got 400 yards with 2 touchdowns and then 100 yards and on. Okay? Remember that they lost Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard did crack 1,000 yards last year and added 6 touchdowns of his own. So right now it seems like they have in principle the deal. It's $33 million, right? Which is just over Jefferson.
Just over. And he's always been saying that's kind of his marker. He felt he was that type of wide receiver. He wanted those numbers.
Yeah. Hey, I can't fault the guy. He's been right there with Justin Jefferson as far as, and they've both done the same amount of winning, really. Good season winning, no postseason winning. So when you're comparing the numbers, I can understand why he wants that. But it seems like they're bickering over like the last year's couple of million. It's just silly to me right now. Like, let's get these guys in camp and stop messing around. You already got what you want. That $33 million. What are we even freaking talking about right now?
But you see, Jerry Jones has always been that way. I always think he doesn't. He's not putting the right perspective on some of these players. And CeeDee Lamb is a player I feel he can't allow to walk or be disgruntled. Because then again, what is Dak going to do? He's not going to run around with the ball. So if anything, you can't afford Dak. He needs to get rid of the ball. So you need somebody who can get open. Don't mess around. Make this deal happen.
And, Jerry just talks way too much. We all know that. The biggest thing for me right now is if, let's just say by chance, this falls apart, why would Dak want to come back to a Dallas team without CeeDee? I don't know what number Dak's going to be going for, right? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But whatever the number is, let's say it's $60 million, like everybody's saying. If it's $60 million with CeeDee, to get me to come back without CeeDee would be 65.
Yeah.
You're making me now work harder. The prospect of me not winning as much, and the best guy on the team is going to be gone that you're not paying. So why shouldn't I get that money? Because it's all on me. Am
Right.
I confused? I mean,
No, and the thing is, there was rumors out there, you talk about um Patriots teams were interested, they were knocking on the door. As you mentioned, $33 million. Some of these teams are saying, hey, let's trade for him and let's see, let's try to make a deal with him, sign him for long term. The Dallas Cowboys can't afford for a this year for the wide receiver come up with a messed up head and not want to play for
right.
them.
And also for your quarterback. I mean, let's say this is the last hurrah of Dak Prescott. Dak has been a good quarterback for years. I don't know if I put the whole them not winning on him, right? The onus is not really on Dak. There's a lot of pieces that have gone into this not winning. But as the quarterback, he's owning it, he's wearing it. And if you're going to not pay CD, then you should have gotten stuff for him already to give this Dallas team that to me has talent, but it's floating right on the top. It's very top heavy. You got CD, you got Dak, you got Ferguson, the tight end, and then you're dropping to say Brandon Cooks,
Brandon Cooks, yeah, that's your big name.
Michael Gallup, the guy you paid. We got to also remember how we got here. You paid Michael Gallup and traded away Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper still having great years in the Browns with stinking Joe Flacco throwing to him. Imagine if you could have kept CD and Amari together, which they could have easily done. They just didn't have to trade him. It's not like when he got traded to the Browns, he got a new contract. He's still playing on that old one. And just let Michael Gallup go, and you would have had two really good quarterbacks. I mean, two really good wide receivers. And then where would we be? Now we're cooking, right? So
Yeah.
I don't really know. Do you think that they should re-sign Dak Prescott?
Well, again, when you look at what you got, if they don't sign, they're going to sign CeeDee Lamb. That's a gimme. Because if you don't sign him, you got nobody on this team, really. Look at their running backs. What do they got in their running backs? They got nothing. Their number one running back right now is Elliott. That's their number one. That's disgusting. Then you got, your quarterbacks. What is your Trey Lance? Okay, good. But if you look at their roster, they're not really projecting him almost as number two. He could fall as number three. Their other quarterback, Rush, could be a number two. So again, what do you got? If you don't sign him, I say, hey, start from scratch. You know what I mean? But these teams are not going to look at that. The Dallas Cowboys has always been a team where they felt that they were better team than what they were for some time. They've been a decent team, but I think they've looked at themselves like, we can do anything we want with the players we got, and we can make it happen.
Yeah.
And you haven't been able to do that. They've fallen short. And their window, unfortunately, when you look at their roster, is dwindling. And I personally, I don't think they're gonna pay Dak. I don't think so. I don't think it's worth putting that much money into him. So I personally say he walks.
You say he walks, or you say they let him walk?
They let him walk.
Okay. And you think that's the best idea?
Well, the thing is, again, when you look at the team,
I think it is.
you start from scratch. they should have did something last year to try to get some draft picks and try to get the quarterbacks that they can have. Again, these guys know their draft picks. They know what's going on. They know what's out there. But I say sign CeeDee Lamb. That's your better choice. And let Dak walk and pick up, try to see what Trey Lance, which he was predicted to be, possible starting quarterback at one time, and try to draft. But you're going to need to draft running backs too.
So let's just be clear. After this year, all three of those quarterbacks are free agents. Now, nobody's saying that they wouldn't be able to sign Cooper Rush back or Trey Lance, but I'm just simply stating a fact that whatever happens next year, they've got to sign the guy. Okay? Would I sign Trey Lance? They know better than me. He's been in that building, and if they're saying he's not going to get even to number 2, then the answer is no. I wouldn't sign Trey Lance. Would I sign Cooper Rush? I think I would sign Cooper Rush. He's a veteran. He's come in that system. Remember 2 years ago, Dak was hurt in the beginning of the year, and he went a stretch, and I think he won 4 games out of 6 and won them big. So he's at the very least a serviceable guy that you can put in there to work to win some games while you're bringing along another person. And if you don't sign CeeDee, I don't think that the luster of what the Dallas Cowboy name used to be is as high as they still think it is. And I think that's the biggest problem.
That's the biggest problem.
Because we talk about the free agents that have come over. Where are those big free agents? They traded for Amari Cooper. He wasn't a free agent when he came over. Brandon Cooks, they traded for him. I don't consider him a big free agent. They added Eric Kendricks this offseason. Good linebacker. Getting a little older now, but still a good linebacker. They let Stephon Gilmore, for no apparent reason, leave. And I thought he was a big boost to that secondary. Would have had 3 really, really good corners there. That's how you set up your defense. You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure what they're doing. I would let them walk. I would get a rookie in there. And who knows who will be available next year? What quarterback might shake loose? This has been happening more and more these years.
Yeah, I agree. You got to think about it too. How old is Parsons?
He's young. He's young. I mean, he's not even up to his 5th year yet. So, maybe 25.
Yeah, you're right. He's 25 years old. 25 years old. So 4 years experience now, 6'3", 245. The problem is when you get a linebacker like this player, you can't squander these years. He's going to get disgruntled. He's going to get disgruntled. Then you get another guy like you've seen a lot of defensive players in some teams leave. They're going to leave. And then where are you? You're nowhere. So I really think Dallas Cowboys, if you don't do something this year, you will find themselves in the next 2 years in a hole that of what I call being irrelevant. And I think that's what's going to happen to them.
I mean, so that's why I'm saying it's better to sign Micah, right? Even though in my eyes he's an imperfect linebacker, because he's a good defensive end. He's not a great linebacker. He's a good linebacker. He's a great defensive end. You can run at Micah. He over pursues a lot. Now, the good thing about Micah Parsons is that he's so fast, he can make a tackle from behind. But I've already gotten my job done past the line of scrimmage as a running back. You know what I'm saying? So he doesn't really close off the edge really well. He doesn't play the run really well. He attacks the quarterback like no other. But my point is that there's still things that I would like him to be better at that would make me feel better at committing all the money to him. But I think I'd still do it just because getting to the quarterback is number one, the number one thing in defense. And he does that
Right.
just as good. I'm not going to say better than everybody else, because he's not better than everybody else, but he does it just as good as everybody. Now, you brought up a situation with Zeke Elliott. I do not understand what they were doing. They let Zeke go years too late. Years too late. They say, okay, Tony Pollard is our back. Knowing his limitations, knowing that Zeke was the thunder and he was the lightning. They try to make him do everything. He got 1,000 yards, but that wasn't enough for them. So they let him go. And then they re-signed Zeke for $2 million. And I go, with all the running backs that were out there this year, and how many running backs moved this year? Was it 12?
Tons, tons, tons of
Oh,
running backs. Tons of running backs were picked up on the draft. Tons.
yes.
So many.
Yes. Why didn't you pick up a Blake Corum in the draft? I think he went second round. What are you doing, Dallas? As a team that has been known to have a running game that wants to set the tone with the run, to have nothing right now is crazy to me.
Yep.
You got no running game, and then you're squabbling about a couple $1,000,000 with your star wide receiver who's 70% of your offense right now? What are you talking about?
Now, granted, they did do a lot of on offensive line. They picked up a lot of offensive line this year. They picked up a lot of defensive players this year, linebackers, quarterback. They picked up one wide receiver all the way in the sixth. Everything else was split offensive line and defense. Which okay, you gotta protect the quarterback. And this was again a good year for offensive linemen. But
Absolutely.
still, there was a ton of prospects out there that they could have picked. Now they were low on the totem pole this year. They were 29th in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
29th. But they could have gave up. They had two 3 picks. They could have gave up those 2 3s, maybe a second, maybe move all the way up. Imagine them going up. Now, nobody was going to let them go too far up. Nobody's going to let them go too far. But man, they could have got off that 29th spot. They could have probably broken, I would say 10 between 10 and probably 15. And they would have picked in a couple of speedsters and wide receiver. That again, giving Dak another Speedy Gonzalez, some running backs. And when you look at the kids that got picked up, some of these kids, there was one, I think his name is Davis for Tampa Bay. This running back, I think he was maybe a Kansas. I can't remember where he was from, but this kid is running. These kids was running untouchable. Even what was that? No, I'm confused. Not Tampa Bay. It was Buffalo. That's who I was thinking of. Buffalo.
Oh, Ray Davis.
Ray Davis. That's why I don't know why I was looking at the Tampa Bay game not too long ago. But yeah, that kid was running like crazy.
Yeah.
Like
But
crazy.
there was quality running backs all over the place. And I'm not saying that they had to even move up. I'm just saying go get a guy that fills that role. There was plenty of free agents, not high priced. It doesn't have to be high priced, but just go get a guy. Because if you're trying to plan, right, and they were trying to act like they weren't going to pay CD and all these guys, then what were you going to spend your money on? What are you spending your money on? Go get a guy. And not only was there running backs in this draft, in this offseason there were young running backs. That's the part. Swift is young.
Yeah.
Jacobs is young. Austin Eckler is relatively young, especially because he doesn't really do much running up the middle. He's pretty, fresh. Like, what's the plan here? So my next question about Dallas, right, is we've kind of gone into the season with the same squad.
Same squad.
Okay. So, same squad. Coaching staff changed a little bit because their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, is now in Washington as the head coach, right? So that's going to change. So what does the coach have to do to stay in Dallas after this year?
The only way he's staying in Dallas this year, if they do the same or they could do better. But anything else, they're not going to they're not going to stay. He's going to be gone because they have to have a scapegoat.
I think you're crazy. I think if he doesn't get at least to the NFC Championship game, a game away from the Super Bowl, they haven't won a playoff game in forever. Just a playoff game. You're telling me that they can go into next year and win no playoff game? That's the same, and he'll still be there? There is no way. The old man is impatient, getting older, and I think his clock in his head keeps on hitting that watch, and he's going, my days are numbered, my hours are numbered. And so he has to do something.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but you can only do what you got. And he does not have the team to get him that far. If as a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, if you believe you're going to do better than that, I think you're mistaken. I think you're mistaken.
My biggest problem right now with the Cowboys is that I feel like Jerry Jones's list of free agents comes from the headlines. He flips through the headlines and says, "Oh, Gilmore, Defensive Player of the Year 3 years ago, is a free agent. Yeah, let's get him." You know what I mean? Oh, Brandon Cooks has done this in his career, has all these yards, wants out of his team. Yes, he's a name. Let's go get him. But they don't find those little glue guys and those diamonds in the rough. If you do not have a name, you do not have a chance to be a free agent in Dallas.
But let me ask you this.
Problem.
Again, we're talking about what is it going to take for the coach to stay on. Last year, did they have a bad year?
No,
they didn't. So did you consider it and would fans consider it, again, everybody wants Super Bowl, right? Everyone wants to go, but a good year. Yes, it was
their season was good. Yes.
Yeah, their season was good. So when you look at their season, finishing where they finished in their division, on tops of their division, yes, they didn't get further. But what I'm saying is, going in with a similar team, less on a running back, Elliott's not getting 1,000 yards. That's not happening. Okay. So, and with the receivers you got, if you get the same, technically they would do better than they did last year with this team if they do that this year. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying if he does the same, maybe even a little bit better, but just the same, he would be considered as a coach a great successful year.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you might be right. I will say this though. When I look at their division, Washington got better.
Improved.
Okay. Philly, they got better in some respects.
I consider them the same because better. They got to tackle better this year. They got to do better. So I would consider them. They're the same. They're not a
I
bad.
think they have the possibility of being better with Saquon. Maybe they find another niche.
He stays
I mean,
healthy.
even if they just play better because they did not play well last year,
Right.
for the talent that they had. If that talent just starts playing like the talent, I think they could get better. Um, and the Giants, I don't think they're going to be world beaters or anything like that. But if we're talking about did they get better? Yes, they got better this year. Malik Neighbors looks great, and I think we're going to find out, what they have, what he is this year. So every team in their division has gotten, if it's not incrementally better, a lot better for Washington by their subtractions and additions, and maybe a little incrementally better with Philly. We'll see if what's going on there with them.
So again, I go back. Washington has improved. Philly they were Super Bowl bound before. They can change. New York Giants, they can improve a little bit, right? They got their quarterback, right? They can improve. So if all those teams do an improvement, and again, Dallas Cowboys does the same exact what they did last year, that would be considered a success because they would beat some teams that have greatly improved. Now, that's the only way he keeps his job. If they then hit the tanker and are on the bottom or next to bottom, then I think he's going to hit the road, Jack, and don't come around no more. But again, it's not for me. If I'm a coach, yeah, you could get me in there as a young coach to get some experience as a young coach, but it's not a good job. It's not a good job. So I don't think you're going to get a young coach in there. You got to get a retreaded old coach. That's what you got to do. And maybe the coach from the defensive coach from Dallas may be what they look to their next calling.
Let me just say it in words that you can understand. If I go every day for lunch and I eat a good slice of pizza, and this slice of pizza is good, and every day I want this slice of pizza to be great, but it's just simply good. One of these days, I'm going to say, I deserve better than just good because I need to go find a place that makes a great slice of pizza. And I think Dallas eventually, if you're going to end up spending the money on that slice of pizza, cultivating all those ingredients and trying your best to cook it the best it can, you want it to be great. You don't want to settle for just good.
Well, right now, is Dallas more like a hot and ready? Is that what you're saying? A Little Caesars hot and ready?
I think they're more like a canned pizza that you go, this is a solid pizza. But
that's like a frozen section pizza you could get from the frozen section.
But
like
you're not winning
Dorjono.
awards. You're not winning awards with this. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha. And you know what? If Little Caesars would like to be a sponsor of this show later on in time, we will love it.
So I think they've got a lot of things going on all at once. And for years, I've been saying, man, Dallas is not going to win anything with Jerry Jones still at the helm. And I still believe that. But then his son comes out and says some of the same ridiculous stuff. And I was like, oh no, they might not be rid of this even after Jerry. The Jones legacy may be these type of dudes. And they might not go get a general manager even after Jerry, retires and I say retires because I don't like to say he's going to pass. Um, but you know, and that is sad to me because as one of our, great teams out there, I think that guys are proving now that you can get the spotlight and you can get notoriety from anywhere. You can be a star in a little place like Baltimore. You can be a star. You can be the biggest star in a place like Kansas City.
Let me ask you another question. They don't. Dak walks. Where will he walk to?
Well, there'll be some pretty good options out there because right now the Oakland Raiders have done nothing. And so he can go right down to Vegas, put that black and silver on. We know the owner will shell out dough. He'll have Devontae Adams over there. You draft another young wide receiver, and you start. I think what's his name? Zaire White, the running back that's over there. I think he's going to do really, really good this year. I think he's going to be a surprise. That defense got better this year. Now you got Max Crosby on the edge and Christian Wilkinson that used to play for Miami rushing from that same side. That's a huge, huge bonus for them. They're setting themselves up nicely. That's not a bad landing spot for him next year.
That sounds like an excellent landing spot, to tell you the truth. I was not thinking LA, but then when you said it, I was like, man, that's the best spot.
No, and remember they're in Vegas. So he can shine in Vegas. I mean, me particularly, I wouldn't go to Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh will have vacancies next year. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, you're right. And he could go to Pittsburgh. I was thinking, a place like Seattle, he could go to. It's not like they got a stellar quarterback. They have a quarterback that's been making it happen. But I think if he's looking to say, listen, I got a few years to win, I think LA may be the best choice.
Who knows what happens this year? What if Stafford says goodbye and retires? Yeah, go over there with a little bit of an older Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
And listen, I hate to say it, but the Bengals quarterback has not been the healthiest.
It's true.
And listen, he's a great quarterback, but great don't make it when you're hurt.
Right.
And we saw what happened when a quarterback came off the couch and started throwing footballs. Right. And he's still playing and now got signed by the Colts, Flacco. So again, there's opportunities out there. And this may be the last opportunity because a lot of these teams have very, very young quarterbacks. So yeah. I think when you said LA, the Raiders, Vegas Raiders, I think is the best thing that could happen for him right now.
Yeah. Well, we shined up the star. We talked about it. What do you think their record's going to be this year?
Again, it would be nice 12-5, but the reality is it could end up being more like 9 wins, maybe 9 wins and about what would that be, like 8 losses almost?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Well, guys, tell us what you think about Dallas. Tell us what you think their record is going to be. And tell us how you think this all shakes out. Do all 3 guys get signed? All 3 stay with Dallas? Does one of them walk? Which one will it be?
I say Dak walks.
I mean, it could be one we're not thinking of yet. Micah still has time on his contract, and if you could get better real quick if you trade a guy like that away. Tell us what you guys think. We appreciate you guys tuning in for this Dallas breakdown. Tell us what you guys want to hear in future episodes. I love the feedback. We love the feedback. We actually got feedback that actually made this episode happen. A couple of people were telling me that we weren't talking about Dallas enough. Well, now we talked about Dallas, and we will keep an eye on Dallas. And if we have to revisit it, I'm hoping it's going to be for something good and not because none of these guys signed and everything is falling apart. So please please subscribe.
One thing I would say is put your team down. Put your team down. We'll talk about your team. We'll give you our opinion. Then you tell us you like it, you don't like it, you agree. Put your team down. Maybe your team's worth talking about. Maybe it's not. But if you put it down, we will talk about it.
That's right. And Roy, what else should they do every day?
Listen, talk to a stranger about sports today.